Welcome to the Boxing Now podcast. I am your host, that dude named Dave, aka DJ, and to my left, but my virtual right-hand man here, or physical right-hand man, whatever you want to call it here, don't care. He's always here, man. Jorge, how's it going, man?
Doing great, Dave. How are you doing?
Hey, man, we're here for another episode.
Another episode?
I'm going to keep saying that. We're here for another episode. We made it, you know. But before we start talking about some boxing, because we had a very, very hot episode last week.
Yes,
so we got to get into it. But before we get into it here, we got to do the things here. So you see on the screen here, click like and subscribe, people. I'm going to tell you again, please click like and subscribe, because if you like boxing and you want this info, then you don't got to look for us. It comes up right away. Like and subscribe, Boxing Now podcast. If you cannot watch us on YouTube, how about this here? You know what, though? Go to Spotify. On the screen here, Spotify, Boxing Now podcast. Audio only, we're there as well. Also, too, I'm putting all these on the graphics here on the screen so you can see that we also on the Barn Burner TV network, Zingo TV app, channel 250 as well. Shout out to the Barn Burner, the Canada family, showing us mad love here. What you got, Jorge?
Live_Dominoes on Twitch TV, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays at 8 p.m.
All right. Also, I'm on another podcast too. Jump Off Live, Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Central Time, streaming live on YouTube as well. Jump Off Live. Okay. Got all that stuff out the way. What happened last night, Jorge? Because we're recording this on a Sunday. And Saturday night, we had Ryan Garcia.
Your boy.
Why you gotta be my boy?
It's your boy, man.
Why you gotta be my boy? Why you gotta put me like that for?
I gotta put you out there, man.
Well, he's not my boy. I just kind of predicted right, didn't I?
You predicted well. Pretty close.
So I'm mad that I didn't chop this up. I may add it on a future edit, but I predicted a 10th round stoppage for Ryan Garcia against Luke Campbell. And I think we should get into it right now for a fight. Were you entertained with the fight last night? How about that?
I was entertained-ish, right? The undercard itself was a little lackluster from my point of view, but the fight itself was entertaining, right? Anytime you get some knockdowns in a fight, there's things to at least uncover why you get knocked down and why you recover and why you end up knocking down the other guy.
Exactly. I couldn't say it better here, Jorge. So I put on the screen here, Ryan Garcia, silence critics. Because before the fight, you had some harsh words to say about him. Everybody had harsh words to say about him. I was just on the mantra that, hey, he's a young fighter and he's just trying to live. You know, young people rule the world. I'm going to say that right now. We don't give young people respect. But when it comes to the arts and sports, it's all about young people. Old folks, we're about getting off the lawn, you know, and Ryan Garcia says, all right, y'all can say get off my lawn, but I'm here, baby. It's my time. Tank Davis, where you at?
I don't say harsh words. TikTok fighter, would that be harsh? No. And if you can't take it, then go to your safe space. With that said, I think the criticisms and points that I made last week on the last episode were valid.
So let's get into the fight here, Jorge. I want to break this down here because the fight went 7 rounds and there were so many questionable opinions on Ryan Garcia, this and that here. Luke Campbell is a 2012 Olympic gold medalist. He is arguably the greatest British fighter who would not win a belt. They went down his whole list of accomplishments of everything that he's done as far as Commonwealth belts, UK championships, of course, like I said, being a gold medalist. And his major losses, he was 20-3 going into this fight here, and his major defeats were against Linares and Lomachenko, who at the time, and still you could say, are 2 of the top 135-pound fighters in the division. Linares might be going to 140. I think he fought at 140 his last fight, but he says that he can make 135. So we're looking at Luke Campbell as somebody who is a decorated fighter who is just not a legit champion yet. When I say legit champion, who has not won a major sanctioning body. So we had that here, and then Ryan Garcia, 20-17 knockouts. And let's go round by round here. Round 1, I gave that one to Ryan Garcia.
And I agree with that. Garcia was the more active fighter. I think Campbell was still trying to measure the distance, measure his power, and took a more cautious approach, which for all accounts, most fighters are doing that in the first round these days anyways.
Yeah. One thing I noticed in this fight here, and I want to know if you agree with me or not, that Ryan Garcia was the aggressor the entire fight.
Fighting against the southpaw, he definitely had his foot on the gas from the moment the bell rang. That's been his MO, I think, for pretty much all of his fights. All of his fights that he's had so far at this point, he's put his foot on the gas, and he's usually not in your face. So let's correct that, right? So he's coming at you, but he's definitely coming at you within his range, the range that he wants to fight in. So it's an appearance that he might be trying to come after you. Really, what he's doing is he's setting himself up to say, hey, I want to stay in this range. You need to get me off my footing of this range, right? There's other fighters who fight a little bit more up close, more inside. He likes to fight at the range where his toes are just bumping up to your toes, and that's just enough for him to basically dictate where his arm length is at.
Could agree with that wholeheartedly. I looked at that round one was a fill-out round. You know, the Garcia stayed in the pocket. He kept pushing forward with his jab, and it looked more like Luke Campbell was just doing timing shots. He was countering that whole first round. When I look at that, like Garcia was kind of throwing punches and bunches, and then as soon as Luke had found his spot, then he was trying to capitalize that by counterpunching, going to the body here and there. But it was such a fill-out round that I gave that round to Garcia because of like a fill-out round, you know, and he was the aggressor. Now, round two is when the fireworks kicked in, my friend. Round two, we saw Ryan Garcia get dropped for the first time in his career. Now, I had took some notes here when it came down here. It was a looping left hook that brought down Garcia's guard. So basically what happened was that Luke Campbell had threw a jab to the body, and it forced Ryan Garcia to kind of react to that. And then Luke came with this looping left hook that caught him and put him right in the back.
The looping punch was interesting because if you see, so looping punches in general are pretty interesting, right? Especially if you're coming from like at a hook angle and stuff, because the trajectory, if you misjudge that trajectory, it's going to hit you. A good example of that type of punch would be like a Broner against Maidana. Maidana had when he knocked down Broner, he threw a left that looked like it was going towards the body. It ended up being more like a half uppercut, half hook.
It was it came from here. I remember that.
Yeah, punch. It came low.
It
looked like it was going to the body and knocked him right in the head.
And you couldn't even see too because he threw it from such an angle, low spot. That's a good analogy.
So this spot, the location, like so you're looking at the delivery, right, where the punch was coming from the left. It looked like it was going to hit him probably more like around the guard. This came a little bit over the guard, but over to the head. The way Garcia fell down by that punch, So, with Garcia and stuff, there were questions I had in the episodes prior. I said, if he get angled, he's going to go down. And I kind of proved my point. Like, if he doesn't see this punch coming, he's going to go down. He leaves himself open enough for a punch like that, to that degree of an angle from a fighter that I wasn't expecting that angle to come from either. That's the other part, too. I wasn't expecting Campbell to throw a punch from an angle that he wouldn't see coming. Campbell, from my point of view, is usually a pretty straight up fighter, and the punches are usually, you can kind of see them coming, right? Most fighters that are straight up like that. This was a punch you didn't see at all.
Yeah. And if I'm going to nitpick here on Luke Campbell here on this situation, he did not jump on Ryan when he had the opportunity. That knockdown happened in the second round where enough time that he could have possibly finished him off. And the reason why I say that, I'm not taking anything away from Garcia because he recovered. I look at that Luke Campbell didn't do what he needed to do because it was clearly on the telecast. Garcia's eyes was just blinking a million times a second. Like, he could not get his bearings. What you saw was him fight off instinct. Like, you would see him and the one thing he needs to work on is holding. Like, something like that happens, when you're hurt like that, you got to cut off the distance, and you got to be able to hold in a certain way so that you can recover and get your bearings right. He was sitting there, he took a few shots, and then he would throw a couple of punches trying to keep him off bay. But you can tell that he was discombobulated. He didn't have his bearings with him. And then when he sat down to end that third in the second round in his corner, you can just tell he was like, he was not there. And even in the telecast afterwards, the post fight, he mentioned that he was buzzed. He's like, oh my God, like, for those moments, I didn't know where I was at, but he recovered. The fact that he had enough instinct to fight back and recovered. But like I mentioned earlier, Luke Campbell is arguably one of the greatest British fighters who did not win a belt. You have a young fighter who has not fought anyone the caliber of you, and you put him down early in the second round. This is the time where you test his heart. Now, before we started the show, I mentioned that Luke felt Garcia's power in that first round and parts of that second round. Reason why he probably took a cautious approach, not going at him. But I would think that any veteran fighter, knowing that you have a 22-year-old fighter who's not fought anybody in the top 10, to jump on him. Let's see what he has left. Knock out his psyche. Make sure that he cannot recover, or you put every doubt in his mind that he cannot fight back. Because one thing about boxing is will. If you take away a fighter's will, I don't care how strong a puncher that man is, he ain't going to win if you take his will away. Luke didn't do that. So he let him off the hook, I felt, in round 2. I scored a 10-8 because of the knockdown. And how do you feel about that? And do you agree with me, or you think I'm off on that?
No, you're absolutely right on that. Campbell, for a veteran fighter, I agree. I was disappointed that he didn't come after him the way other traditional finishers would have gone in and finished that. At the very least, if you were still cautious, I would have expected, with the amount of time in that round, do enough damage to the body to kind of let him know that, hey, I'm coming after you. You might be protecting your head, but I will come after you. I'm gonna soften you up, and I'm gonna come after you in the next few rounds and stuff. So not only was I disappointed with the second round approach after the knockdown, I was disappointed with the rest of the fight after that.
Me too. Oh my God. Like, I want to get into that. The third round, I was pointing out to you that Garcia did not recover until the final minute of that third round.
Yeah.
So if you ever watch the fight on DAZN, you will see Garcia in the first 2 minutes, he's fighting clearly out of instinct. You will literally see him throw like 4 or 5 punches, and it's literally like, okay, I gotta get Luke off of me. Like, like that. But Luke Campbell was slow and deliberate, winning the round, but didn't put him away. And you can clearly see around the 1-on-1 mark in that third round, the light clicked on for Garcia. He got his second win. Like, okay, I'm recovered now. And you can see him in that last minute. He went to work again, but I didn't think he did enough to win that round because he was still in recovery mode those first 2 minutes. I am so disappointed in Luke Campbell because Garcia didn't throw any punches during that time period from the knockdown or into the third round that hurt him. So I know you felt this power and you respected him, but now you got a wounded animal. Put him out of his misery. And you sat there and you waited and you were patient. And Luke Campbell, I know he's 20-3 with 16 knockouts. He's not known for his power, but he does have 16 knockouts for 20 wins. Put the pedal to the metal. He's young, inexperienced, but that's to the benefit of Ryan Garcia now. Now he gave Garcia all the ammo to come back. And we saw that in the 4th round on, man. At that point, the fight was over to me. It was a matter of when, not if.
Yeah, you have somebody down that is, by all measures, younger than you, more energetic than you, more inspired, more motivated to do something in that fight than you were. You knocked the boy down. Go finish the job. Do your job like any other boxer who's knocked down a fighter in the past, who's been a great finisher. If you at the end of the day, you were 33. What were you going to lose at that point? You go guns a-blazing, try to knock him out, and if he comes back and knocks you out, so what? You do damn if you do, you damn if you don't, but go in there, finish off the job that you were meant there to do. If you knock down the fighter, go finish your job. If you can't finish your job, then that's just the way it is.
Facts. So we go into the 4th round. Ryan's fully recovered now. I put my notes in here that he landed a hard right hand at 135 mark. At that point, I knew the fight was over. It was such a hard right. And you saw Luke and he was in a daze. He had rubber legs for a second. Now, it wasn't a shot to knock him out. It was a shot that was like, okay, you didn't put him on the ground like we said. You didn't take him out after the knockdown. You let him recover. Now you're in the 4th round, and you got hit to the point where oh, my God, I need to hold. I'm in trouble now. At that moment, I knew Luke had lost the fight unless he could land another shot to put Garcia out. Because at that point, it was over. You took a man's confidence. He took your best shot, and now you're backing up. You're not even the aggressor. Ryan Garcia, even when he was hurt, he was still being the aggressor going forward. He was pressing forward. He was throwing the jabs. He was coming in, throwing hooks and going, even though he's not a body puncher, he threw a few punches. And that, we're going to get into that in a few rounds here. I guess it was setting him up. He's not known for that. So we go in the 4th round. I gave that one to Ryan, 10-9, because Luke just gave up that point then. He conceded so much.
Yeah, basically, you reset for whatever reason. He reset the clock and he's back to the 1st round all over again. You guys are still you're allowing Garcia to basically dictate that he wants to fight at the range he wants to fight in. Why? Why would you allow it? There's no reason to allow it. There was no reason to let off the gas in the 2nd round. or in the third round. You basically had every reason to go after him and dictate the pace the way you wanted it. But obviously, for whatever reason, he felt comfortable fighting at Garcia's pace, which is not smart. You gave the kid every chance to recover and every chance to basically do you in the way you were about to do him in.
Yeah. So I want to move into round 5. I felt round 5 and 6 was the precursor to the end of this fight here. And once again, I'm watching every second this, and I'm just seeing Ryan just going forward. Keep going forward, putting the pressure. You know, even if shots are being blocked, he's still throwing them. Like even some looping lefts I saw, but he was putting the pressure. And one thing I want to point out to people who do watch boxing, when punches are blocked, I mentioned this before, they hurt. Just because a guy blocks a shot and it may not count in the CompuBox, that is going to the damage and the wear and tear of that fighter. Like we talk about how Canelo, how he just banged on Caleb Smith's bicep until he tore that muscle or ruptured it basically. Mm-hmm. And those are some of the shots that I did see that Ryan Garcia was doing. He was throwing punches that may have been blocked, but they hurt. Like you hit someone right here enough times, like I said with Canelo, you just buttering that up, baby, so you can go ahead and eat that steak nice and medium. Mm-hmm. You know, same thing when you go into the body. He's not a body puncher, but that's what Canelo does. You butter that up. So when it's time to go head hunting, they can't take the headshots anymore because they have no core.
Yep.
You know, so I looked at round 5. There was a shot that Ryan threw at the 52nd mark. Oh, once again, Luke Campbell's neck jerked. He was hurt. You can tell he was dazed. And another thing, too, for Luke to be as accomplished fighter as he was, he don't hold. I saw that about Garcia.
Yeah.
They were in the pocket all 7 rounds. It wasn't like on the ropes. There was no running. That's one thing I can say that I like the fight. They were in the pocket, in the middle of the ring. If there was ropes, it's because they kind of walked that way, but they stood in that phone booth and exchanging shots. It's just the fact that Garcia had his range, dictated his box of philosophy better than Luke Campbell.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's well, I mean, so Campbell's an interesting fighter, 33 years old and 23 fights in the books. I was surprised he wasn't holding, wasn't fighting in the inside. A lot about that fight surprised the hell out of me. And the fact that 2 fighters just very comfortable just fighting at that range. It's as a fight fan, I was kind of annoyed. I was annoyed because there wasn't an attempt to be the aggressor, be a bit of a mauler. And there's something wrong with being a mauler there, right? You can tell Garcia's not there. He's not there in his career where he wants to be that. He might never ever want to be that type of fighter. And I have my reasons why I think he'll never be that kind of guy, because I think he'll protect other parts of his body that are more important to him than the rest of them. Mm-hmm. But Campbell could have. Yeah. Campbell could have made it more rougher inside, second, third, fourth, fifth. He could have changed the pace of the fight by being the aggressor more inside and making it more uncomfortable for the kid. So and that's kind of what Morales did. Carlos Morales did with him in that majority decision win that he had years ago. He made it rough for him in the inside. There's nothing wrong with that. Go do that. So I was, again, I take my hats off to Garcia for winning the fight. Campbell, I'll give him credit for the knockdown, but they fought a bad game plan the rest of the fight.
Yeah, he did. I'm going to fast forward to round 6 and 7 here. 6, Garcia looked to end the fight. The very first part of round 6, he came out blazing.
Yeah.
He hurt him, but he knew he couldn't take him out right then and there. I could tell within the first was 40 seconds. He put a hurting on him, but he couldn't put him away. So I saw maturity in Garcia. He stepped back, and then, the middle part of the round, he kind of just said, okay, I can't put him away, but he placed his shots the way they need to be placed. He landed harder, once again, more hard shots, had Luke on the defense the entire round. Luke was in trouble. He was hurting in that round. I was looking at my notes here, and there was a couple of shots that Ryan had actually picked off, countered, and threw right back. And Luke couldn't do nothing about it. And so we went to the corner of round 7. You can see how Eddie Reynoso, he's the trainer for Ryan Garcia now, also trains Canelo Alvarez. He was heated on him, especially in the knockdown, but he was getting on him and talked to him. And then it's kind of funny too, how fighters able to do this, because Ryan Garcia is Mexican-American, right? He don't speak Spanish. He had his other co-trainer translating for Eddie Reynoso. I mean, it works. I always thought that's interesting when you hire a trainer that you don't have the same language and dialogue, that barrier, but it works, so 7th round came. Luke was throwing, but nothing was clean. I have my notes here. Yeah. And he, I saw shots going to the body, but then, like we mentioned, the liver shot. Oscar-esque.
Yeah, very Oscar-like liver shot. Well, Like most liver shots, if you get hit in the right spot in the liver, and it's usually going to come from the left. It always comes from the left typically. You'll never really see one come from the right at that point. But the left, yeah, that's going to happen. I mean, it's going to hit that part of the body, and if it hits the right spot, you're going down.
Yeah. So it was perfectly placed. And the first time I watched it, I didn't know it was even a body shot because I saw a weird angle. I thought it hit him on the pec the way it was, but then you saw the angle. It was literally right there. It was like probably right on top of the kidney.
Yeah.
It was a perfectly placed shot. And it was a delayed reaction too, because as soon as he landed, you saw Luke do this, and then he just kind of fell back, and then he went down to one knee. And those are the ones, you know, when you see that delayed reaction, you know it's like a jolt of shock just went through that guy's body.
Basically, a liver shot. I mean, have you ever seen any liver shots taken in boxing and stuff? You're not going down right away. What happens is like your body feels it, and then it's like the shock starts from one part of your liver till it reaches the other side of the liver, and then it's like, oh, okay, now once it's done completing its course, now you're going down.
Yeah. So now Ryan Garcia is the interim WBC champion at 135. The regular champion is Devin Haney. I explained that in the last episode that Devin Haney is the WBC champion because Lomachenko had the belt. He relinquished it. He became the franchise champion because he didn't want to fight him because the big fight with Teofimo Lopez. So now Devin Haney has been elevated to full-time stature. Now you got Ryan Garcia interim stature. That's a lot of garbage I just said there. Yeah, boxing kind of sucks in that way. The fact that I know that and can explain that.
It's a ton of garbage. Before we get on to the next parts of what's going on, let me give my overall recap real quick on that, on just Garcia himself.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Because Campbell's 33. At this point, he's the gateway fighter for the rest of the division. Any upcoming prospects will end up coming through him at some point if he still fights there or goes up to 140. In any case, good recovery for Garcia. I'm not going to take anything away from the young man. He recovered from the knockdown. It was fortunate he was allowed to recover. Let's just call it that. He got allowed to recover. Other than that, everything that I said about Ryan Garcia the last time we spoke, folks, I'm still right on. His defense is still bad. His footwork is still bad. His head movement is still bad.
Yeah.
Conditioning is still
I hate to cut you off. He has no, not bad. He has no head movement. Let's just put it out there. There is no head movement.
And again, I said it then too. I said, guys like Gervonta Davis, Teofimo Lopez, Lomachenko, these guys are going to create angles. Luke Campbell never showed me in the past that he can create an angle. So the fact that he got angled on a looping punch that way and went down, and not just went down, he went down face hard. Very Amir Khan type of knockdown, right? I don't want to say that Garcia's going to have a glass chin, but you got knocked down and you basically have given up red meat to the same people you've called out. You're asking for trouble if you don't correct the things that I mentioned. And you're a Reynoso fighter, right? Same guy who trains Canelo. If you're telling me after this is like your fifth fight now with Reynoso, and you haven't corrected your defense, your footwork, your head movement, and your conditioning, you're not going to have a long career in this division or in boxing altogether if you keep this up. So I would have what I expected for this fight from a defensive point of view, he corrected none of that. And I think he's in trouble.
Yeah, I see that. I can see all your points there. But we do got to give credit where credit's due. And I'm glad you brought that up. I was about to jump ahead for a second, but we got to give credit where credit's due. Let's just break it down here. Everybody was rooting for Ryan to lose. Everybody. Like, I was on different publications, like the betting odds was for Ryan Garcia. Like, you see the skill set, right? You see the power, you see the speed, you see the age, you see the height, you see the length, you see all these things. Now, of course, everything you mentioned is right about his deficiencies and the shortcomings he has in his game. But you add the pros in this game, you see why he was the betting favorite. Now we're seeing everybody that was against him now kind of being quiet. Like Bad Love Hook. I mean, I sent you a couple articles. I mean, there was Ring articles, there was ESPN articles. No one wanted him to win. I didn't get it. Now I understand he's a brat. We talked about that in the episode. Maybe he wants too much too fast, but I think he's good for boxing. You may not like him, but it's good for boxing when people want these fights. They don't want to be spoon-fed for a long period of time. It's like you can question like, yo, wait your turn, young fella. He's like, nah, 22. I'm ready. I can beat these guys. I've been in sparring. I know how they fight. Maybe, he's going to get taught a lesson one day. But for today, hey, he beat Luke Campbell and knocked him out when everybody was hoping he'd get knocked out. Everybody's hoping that he would lose, so he would shut up and go in a corner somewhere and then say, yo, work your way back up the right way. That's what everybody's saying. Work your way up the right way. And the thing is, there's no such thing as the right way anymore, because I was telling you off air, like you mentioned, he's a TikTok fighter, right? My best friend Jeff, his daughter, I think she's 11 years old. She follows boxing because of her dad, because me and him, we go into Vegas, go on the boxing fights. But she only knew of Ryan Garcia because of TikTok. We have fighters now who are establishing themselves with an audience who is growing with them. Like when we were 11 years old, we're boys. So we follow boxing and we knew who we were going to follow. But little girls, they follow sport because their dad or a big brother. Now, just on their own, they're seeing somebody that brings them to the sport. Now, some people can say, well, he's not. There's ways of saying like this is wrong or the old guard. But I'm a fan because he's bringing more eyes to the sport. More eyes to the sport means more money to the sport. That means that these guys might fight more. So at the end of the day, I'm happy Garcia won. I mean, hey, I can't stand him going the way he does certain things, but hey, it's sports in every line: boxing, basketball, football, baseball, whatever it is. There is athletes who have that ego, who people think they just want too much too soon. And you know what, though? Sometimes they got the goods. Sometimes these guys are flawed, but being flawed means they can give good fights.
So with that said, I'm going to say one name here that rings a bell, and we talked about this in our pre-meeting stuff. Fernando Vargas.
Yeah.
Fernando Vargas, at the time of the late 90s into the early 2000s, was an up-and-coming fighter. Olympian. I believe he won a medal during the Olympics, right? I think, correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Let me double-check that.
But while you look for that, the reason I say Fernando Vargas was he was a young Olympian coming up, who at least had a good pedigree going on his shoulders, and he was coming up fighting hard, good fighters way too soon in his career. And at the time, Winky Wright, Ike Corte. Then he gets into the ring with Felix Trinidad. Gets a whooping. Actually made it a really interesting fight. When I watched the fight the first time, back when the fight started, I thought Trinidad was beating the crap out of him. The more I rewatched that fight, it ended up being a really entertaining fight, and a fight that even Trinidad, I think, if he got careless, could have lost as well, because he did get knocked down as well. But up to that point, I mean, Fernando Vargas didn't have to get into that fight yet. He was in his early 20s getting to that fight with Trinidad. Trinidad was already on his way up, and pretty much, in my book, a more seasoned veteran for Fernando Vargas. And it showed. It absolutely showed. And if you're a fighter like Bernard Hopkins and Felix Trinidad at the time, I mean, there was a saying that you do whatever it takes to win your fight within the scope of the rules. And Felix Trinidad at the time was kind of known as that type of fighter, that he was going to win, but at the same time might go a little bit above and beyond within the scope of the rules and stuff, whether it penalizes a point or not. That's where the trajectory is right now, I see, with Ryan Garcia. And that's because he's asking for the fights way too soon. This same Fernando Vargas lost to Nasser De La Hoya immediately afterwards, and got the same boxing lesson and knockout lesson that Trinidad gave him. So, and it ended. His career ended a lot more sooner than it should have if he got the right guidance promotionally and from a mentor point of view, right? I mean, if you want your fight, you want to have a lengthy career, and at least where you're able to generate consistent revenue because you care about your career, then you need to care about your career from a boxing standpoint, not your brand. And that's the problem that, Booger McFarland said it best from a football point of view, but I think he means it in general. I think for sports, it covers it in general. The kids these days that are on TikTok, they're building their brand there. And you're not building your brand with the sport that you are in.
And that's the old guard, though, and I don't agree with it. Because I don't care if you build into a boxing or not. If you bring a fan base in, then the hardcore boxing fan's going to watch it when you do get up there anyway. You see, it's just because it's not the original way of thinking, Jorge, it shouldn't be wrong. Like Booger McFarland is wrong. I did not agree. No, there are some points I agree with. I did not agree with him. And this is a whole nother subject. I won't go deep into it regarding the black quarterback and things of that nature.
I think that's a different subject.
It's a different subject, but he incorporated so much into that as well. Like it's the demographic of being young. The whole
just the young part is the part I'm referring to.
Yeah. But the problem that I have here is, once again, is to get off my lump. It's because I did not go the route that you wanted me to go. Here's one way I look at it. In my career, I didn't graduate college. I mean, I had circumstances that I'm not celebrating that. I wish I did graduate college. But I'm in my career where we're both in the same kind of in the line of work, and I make just as much money as someone who has a master's degree.
Sure.
I grinded to get where I was at. It's not conventional. I had people mad as hell at me that I didn't have a degree coming up when I was young, but I knew what they did, and I knew more than what they knew. They had a degree and couldn't explain what to do on certain things.
Sure.
So I did things unconventionally. So that's why I can agree with that. Because if you do things not the proper way, the people who do things the right way are gonna talk about you because you didn't do it the way it's supposed to be. Like, I'll use one example. I work for the Fed, and then there's one guy before the pandemic happened. I used to ride the train with him every day, and he had an issue with people who did not have college degrees. And he would just go in like, this guy, he don't have a degree. And then it got to the point I was like, dude, I ain't got a degree. And then it's like, huh? I was like, no. And then the things that we talk about, he thought I had a degree. Like, I'm studying Amazon Web Services right now. And I was going through all the, just the whole database part of it. Not to go too nerd on it. I'm just setting an example here. I'm explaining all these things that you would think a college graduate would have. And then he looked at me with a certain way. He's like, I said, no, I don't. You plan on going back to school? I said, if time allows it. But hey, life and family changes things.
Sure.
So I agree with the people who don't do things conventionally, because people look at it like, you're supposed to do it this way. You're supposed to do it this way. There's no right way. If the dude can fight, he can fight. Now, will he get caught by Gervonta Davis? Hell yeah. I think he's gonna get knocked out by Davis when they do fight. Devin Haney, I think that's a 50-50 fight. Lomachenko, 60-40. I still think Lomachenko healthy would beat him. Boxing skills, I don't care about the height and length, and Teofimo Lopez, I think he is below everybody. He's 50-50 with Devin Haney, and I think he loses to everybody until I see another fight that proved differently. The point I'm going at is, let him live. We do this every generation. When we were young, they clowned on us. Old folks clowned on us. Like I said, for me, in the workforce, every generation, old folks are always hard on young folks because they didn't do it our way. So we got to spank them and show them how to do it the right way.
Well, let's put it this way. I think from our career point of view, that's a separate discussion, and that's and believe me,
I'm using that as an example because people feel a way that if you don't do things the right guard, I'm just saying that if people don't do things the way that normally how it's always been done, there's a large segment that says you shouldn't be here.
Unconventional. I'm not saying I agree. I believe me. One of the things that makes me most proud of, one of the things I know about you is that you were able to do it unconventionally and do it your way. So believe me, that for a friend that I've had for over 10 years, that's one of the things I'm most proud of. When it comes to boxing, and I think a lot of this happened too with like the Moneyball era when it came to the baseball and stuff. I don't think it's so much the old guard protecting their sport. For boxing specifically, there are plenty of examples of the unconventional approach being humbled. And Fernando Vargas would have given me probably another 5-8 years of good boxing to talk about and look at if his career was guided a little bit more differently. The way I look at Ryan Garcia's career, I want to be able to cover this kid. I mean, he's 22 years old. I like to be able to cover him until he's like his mid-30s. I like to be able to cover the kid and cover his boxing career and enjoy it as a boxing fan. That's really where I'm coming from. I don't want to talk down on the kid and say that he's not somebody that I dislike or not want to follow. Mm-hmm. The only part I'm completely disagreeing with is the way he's trying to manage his career and do it more conventional, not through your fist, but through your brand, who you are and stuff, right? You build your brand first before the sport.
I know I agree with that to a degree. If you have the goods, like he has Golden Boy behind him, Oscar De La Hoya. So it's not like just some boxer that we may see, like I always mention, like there's main events or you see Top Rank. If a major promotional outfit invests into that kid, they know he got the goods. He has deficiencies. It's all about trying to clean up the deficiencies, match him up properly so that when he becomes championship fighter, he's got the goods. Golden Boy saw that with Ryan Garcia ahead of time. Now you're saying that he's navigating through his brand. Why not? It's boxing. You know what? Know why I say that? You get hit in the head for a living. And the goal is to make as much money as you can so that you can get out, so you can remember your money and then when you're out of the sport. So at 22 years old, I look at him as like, I don't think he's going to fight past 30. He has a brand that has a core following that he don't even have to fight right now. The bulk of the money comes in now because he's making $300,000 million per fight. So you don't turn that away. I look at that. Boxing is a means to an end for him. So if his brand is saying this is going to be for my rest of my life, boxing is going to get me here to a certain point, I don't have a problem with that.
He's intertwined his brand with what he does for a living. At some point, when you're not taking care of the things you need to take care of to make you a better fighter, so that way you can continue building your brand for years to come, and basically build yourself bigger than the sport that you're fighting for. You're fighting in, right? You chose this sport, right? This wasn't like, I was predestined to get this. No, you chose this sport. You had other options in your career earlier on, right? If you read up on his history, he was a good baseball. He wanted to play baseball. It just ended up that way because he wanted the results he wanted sooner than later, and that wasn't acceptable from him from a baseball point of view. So basically, they said, "Hey, boxing," and his talents are there. The kid is offensively, he's talented. Is there holes to his game? Big time, and that's where he got exposed in one round and wasn't fully humbled all the way. Where if he actually really cared, he actually would fix on those things. You have a world-class trainer in Reynoso. If you're telling me that you haven't made the changes defensively that you need to make to at least keep your brand alive, because right now your brand's alive because we box. If you are not taking care of the flaws in your game to make sure that your brand stays alive because of boxing, after boxing, all it is Ryan Garcia without the boxing. And at that point, you need to reinvent yourself. Do you really want to go through the point of reinventing yourself at a young point in your career? You'll have the years ahead of you to reinvent yourself, but right now you're relying on boxing to be the TikTok fighter that you are right now. At some point, you'll just be a TikTok guy.
You know what, though? I don't have a problem being a TikTok fighter if I'm a legend at the bank. Hey, you know what, though? You can catch off guard. Here's the thing, though. Everything you're saying is right to a degree. Like the guard as boxing and developing it, and you're talking about the brand, and then your actual passion of your sport. Everything they go on is right. But I can use the same example for Floyd Mayweather. When he was with Bob Arum early in his career, now I'm not making the comparison of their accomplishments. The fact that they both were young and felt that they thought that their promoter was pushed them too slow. Floyd fought hand in hand with Bob Arum, and you can actually find these on YouTube, like the actual fights, and they're talking about them before the ring walks. And then they're back in the day, like the early 2000s, the hip hop culture, and he was doing 50 Rich Records. It's like he's got a record label, he's got rappers. What is he even is he doing about boxing? The same things you're saying about Ryan Garcia. He got his brand. Is he worried about boxing? And what did Floyd said? I am great. Put me in with these guys. Bob Arum kept slowing it down. I was like, no, put me in with these guys. And they had this body. He even said, even Bob Arum now finally came out and said, not recently, but over the years, he said that I did not properly promote Floyd properly. I looked at him as Sugar Ray Leonard, and not all black fighters can be promoted like Sugar Ray Leonard. Floyd had a way that he felt will make him big. People are following Floyd Mayweather. He's not Floyd Garcia. That'd be funny if Floyd Mayweather was Mexican. But Floyd
he might be in Mexico.
Yeah. But Floyd fought hand over foot with Bob Arum to the point where he got a hold of Al Heyman, and the legend has it that he had a $700,000 buyout. Bob Arum put those in all his contracts for his top guys. They think he was going to be able to pay that. Floyd and Al Heyman paid that off. That's the biggest $700,000 investment ever, because now he's made over $1 billion. But the point I'm using is that promoters see a fighter and they want to get him slowly because they want a long career and they want to make that money off him. Guys like Garcia now are saying, I'm 22. I'm getting hit in the head. Let me get my money, get in and get out. Give me these guys. I know I can beat them now. I want my star power now. So as much as the promoters, they're right, sometimes they're wrong because they want to milk it out. Like we can use the example how Bob Arum, what was it, Lopez and Juanma, remember like 11 years ago, how he kept marinating that fight. He kept putting them in.
Lopez and Gamboa.
Yeah, Gamboa.
That was the fight, the dream fight he was trying to make at the time.
Yeah. But the point I'm saying though is that promoters milk guys out so that they can make more money. So you see him, he plays with this fight. Why is he fighting?
Well, that's the promotional thing that let's put it this way, all the promoters do it.
I'm using that as an example. All of them do it. The fighter's saying, no, he's saying, don't milk me. I want these fights now. And so I can respect the guy who wants the fight now.
Oh, there's no believe me, there's always gonna be a respect factor from that. I mean, I do respect the fact that he wants to fight other people. I'm just saying he might see just 2-3 of those fights and that's it.
That's fine.
And that's it.
That's maybe what he wants.
And that's ultimately what he wants. And I would hope he states that, because as a fight fan, as a boxing fan, then you really know. Here's the thing, right? So with boxing, you kind of know what the real deal is from afar, right? If you watch enough boxing, you know who the fighter, if they're the real deal as soon as you see them, right? If you see some of these up and coming prospects, I mean, you watch enough fighters, and in my case, I was lucky to be around family who's been watching boxing longer than I have, who knew it, right? I mean, they knew a fighter didn't have the goods, even though he was Puerto Rican. But they say, hey, you know what? He looked that good. I mean, they're very critical. People are going to be very critical of a fighter that especially if you've been watching it for years. They know if he's got the goods or not. I'm saying he's got the goods. I'm saying he wants to basically cash in on whatever goods he thinks he has now, and that's
I say why not?
And at a point, if all the fighters had that mentality, you don't got much of a sport.
But it's different for him, though, because he has a fan base and money behind him. See, if you were, who's the guy? Tevin Farmer. I'm just throwing any fighter out there. Tevin Farmer, good fighter. Remember, last 2 or 3 years before he lost, early last year, him and Gervonta Davis were on this collision course. Sure. He was angry. He had won a belt. He defended like 5 times 1 year. He like 4 times. He was like the old guard, like for 2 or 3 years, as far as the title defense. Yeah. And what happened? He lost. He kept putting all these, he kept going after Tank, and he kept going at him, and boom, he lost. He kept putting all these fights in, and then he lost. And so I look at that situation as like he kept angling for it, and Garcia's like, look, no, I make money. I drive people here. People come to see me fight. They don't come to see Oscar fight. They're not coming to see these undercard fights. They're coming to see me, and the analytics prove it. So you know what? I want the fight now. I want this, and I'm gonna. And if you're not gonna give it to me, I'll go somewhere else. And what happened? We're gonna talk about this in another show. But him and Oscar are fighting so much that I make this much money, pay me more. That's business too.
Sure.
If I generate X amount of dollars, and I have the power, you're gonna pay me Y. I know I can't take 100% because you gotta do your job. There's people who does sales and communications and advertising, but the bulk, if I drive your company, you better cut me that check. And that's what he's saying here. Just because you're my promoter, you make money off of me. So he is pushing it to the point where, hey, this is my thing here, and I want to do it, and I got to respect it. Now, I can understand how you're saying that he needs to slow down. You want to have a long career. Maybe he sees himself at 26 and cashing out.
And this is probably the problem I have with boxing to some degree. And this is where I think a lot of the writers, a lot of people who follow boxing probably can't stand this part. Everything you just said about that right now, it all came from the business side. Mm-hmm. I hate the business side. I hate there's a couple things I hate about in boxing. It's the promotional part and it's the boxing part. If you get past that part, the sport is a beautiful sport by itself. Boxing by itself is a beautiful sport. That's why it's called the sweet science for a reason. It's a beautiful sport to cover. It's a beautiful sport to watch. There's so many different ways, strategies, and adjustments, changes, round to round, minute to minute, fight to fight. Mm-hmm. The business part of it, I mean, once the fighters talk about money, and if that's all you hear, that is such a put off from the sport. I love the sport because I grew up watching the sport, loving it for what it was, a sport. Everything outside of that, again, at the end of the day, I'm not mad at any fighter getting their money. I'm not mad at any fighter getting what they feel is due to them and what's owed to them. 100%. I'm for the fighter on that part. Do I need to hear about it? I can give a shit. I really don't care. At the end of the day, if you get yours, get yours. At the end of the day, I'm never going to brag about my career and what I'm making in my salary. What I care about is my career and what the hell I'm doing. What I do behind the scenes, that's for me and my family, period. What I do, if I want to talk about the nerdy stuff about what we do in our career and stuff, that's for us. But at the end of the day, I'm not here to ask, hey, what's your salary? I'm not worried about that. You do what you have to do for you. I have to do what I have to do for me. Garcia needs to do what's good for him. I'll give him that. As a fight fan, as a boxing fan, I agree with the writers and stuff and a lot of this stuff. Cover the sport. We love the sport. We love the sweet science for what it is. That's all I care about.
You know what? And I can see that point. We're gonna have to close out at this point here as we're going to hit a few more points before we end the show off here. I see all those points and I don't agree with it. You know why? Because it's a sport, but it's their job. See, you're speaking from the fan standpoint. I go from if I was that fighter. He fights and he gets a check. That's his job. So that's his job. I'm going to act the way my job dictates that. So it's a lot different logic from a fan standpoint. It's like, yeah, it's a sweet science and we take the business out of it. And such, and that is so true. The point though is that it's a job. It is a business before a sport now. This is their careers. The one thing about boxing is it's one hitter quitter. One punch and your life has changed. You know, a knockout, even though they survive it, shoot, they eating soup for the rest of their life. Look at Terry Norris. Should have won that fight against Chavez. Man, he don't even know his freaking name right now. Even if he won that fight, if Steele did not stop that fight with 4 seconds left and he got the belt and history changed, he still don't know where the heck he's at to this day. So I say these things, say that it's a sport, but it's a business first. And when they talk about their money, it's not because of them. The media did that. Sports is the only field that we know numbers like that. Like LeBron James signs a 2-year extension and we know it's over $100 million. The media announced that. When Ryan Garcia got a new contract with Oscar De La Hoya, went from 200 to 300,000 minimum. The media leaked that. So when we talk about money and they're talking about it, they talk about it because the media puts their business in Front Street. So they're going to talk about it. We don't talk about our salaries per se in IT. And someone asked me, I give them a round ballpark figure, but you're not going to know, you know, but sports, we know how much they make. We know their signing bonuses. We know the upfront money. We know the back end money sometimes. So when they talk about it, Jorge, it's because the media put it there. And then when the media talks about it, and then when the fighters talk about it, we blame the fighters. No, blame the media for putting their business on the street. Because at the end of the day, you think the fighters really want people to know how much they make? They're freaking targets. Look at Tyson. I mean, Tyson created so many issues for himself, but how many times people started a fight with Tyson to get a check? I mean, we see it all the time with fighters all the time. Why do you think Floyd has 7 dudes that are 6'4", 6'5", 300 pounds who could knock dudes out? Because if he gets in a fight, it's going to cost him millions. We put their business on Front Street, so they talk about it then because they can't get around it from it. We are the problem that they do that, not them. And it's their job here. So if it's their job, then let them do their job. We count people's dollars. And I hate when we do that. You know, fighters are fighters and it's their job. And, you know, we created, us fans and as well as the media, create this dynamic where we hate athletes for the things they do, but it's generated from the top down.
I think fans don't care. I think true fans.
That's the problem. Fans don't care, and that's a problem. I hate to cut you off. Fans don't care. That's a problem because people only care about if their guy wins or loses. They don't care about what happens at the end of that 12th round.
Look, when it comes to boxing, I'm gonna say this right now. Hyman Roth said it best, and Godfather too. This is the business we've chosen. This is the business. You've chosen this business. This wasn't, you know, something that was preordained or destined to you when you were born. No, you decided somewhere around the age of 5, the age of 12, the age of 20, whatever age you decided, I want to do this for a living. That's the business you've chosen. What we do for a living right now, that's the business we've chosen. This podcast that we're doing right now, this is the business we've chosen.
Of course.
You understand what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, if that's what at the end of the day, as a fan, I get what these boxers are doing for a living. And I blame it on the people that are around the fighter who leak the stuff out. I blame it on the media who puts it out. As a fan, I'm not looking for it. I'm not looking to try to find that information out. If it's presented to me, it's shown to me. But believe me, it's not because I'm seeking it out. It's because in this media-driven age, it's out there. But it's not something I'm looking for.
That's the bell because, man, we were going back and forth on this Garcia thing. I didn't think it was going to happen like this. It just kind of...
This morphed into something completely different from our pre-meeting.
Yeah. We be honest, people, we weren't planning on talking like this on Garcia. We had a whole bunch of things and then it kind of went left.
I took some feelings out there, man.
You know what, though? I'm just going to be honest. Like, I understand. I respect the way you feel. You feel a certain type of way. I go by the mantra that fighters, this is their job. And fans treat fighters, athletes like freaking crap. I want to curse, but Barn Burner 250 channel, so I want to try and keep it clean. We treat athletes like crap. We treat them, I'm gonna repeat again. We treat athletes like crap. And then when they don't perform the way we want to perform, then we crap on them even harder. And then it's even worse if they're a heel, like things of that nature. I go on the point once again and say, if this is their job. So if this is your job, I hate when people complain about it. No, I don't want people to come to me and complain about me doing my damn job unless it's my damn boss. Like, if you're not in my office and then you don't impact what I do day to day, then what are you complaining about? Like, your boss came to you about some reports or something going on in the infrastructure. You ain't trying to hear someone from HR giving you some other ish that don't make no damn sense either.
At first, I tell the HR person to F off because that's do your job. I do my job.
Yeah.
What about my job? I let my boss tell me to do directly. But in terms of this,
I'm gonna end it here. I just feel that we have a deep dive on players, athletes, and the fans. I think that'd be a good show to talk about. But we dog athletes out, and we created the monster. If we do a deep dive, we created the monster, and then we blame them when they mess up. Now they're human and they do stuff that mess up, but we blame them so bad on things that doesn't make any sense. And so I'm always pro player. I'm always pro athlete. There's nothing you can tell me that's going to be pro corporate. I'm not going to be pro Bob Arum. I'm not going to be pro boss ever. You know what I'm saying? Because the way you're talking, no disrespect, you're pro boss.
Not pro boss. Never. Look, I'm not pro boss. I'm not pro any of that part. I disagree with.
Okay.
Look,
I take that disagreement for you to throw it back at me.
When it comes to this as a sport, what was I doing as a kid? Rooting for the football player, rooting for the basketball player, rooting for the player that you wanted to root for, rooting for your team. There was no part of me saying pro Steinbrenner, right? There was never, go Tribune Company. There was none of that going up when I was growing up. So there'll never be pro boss on that part.
We do that though when a contract comes up and we say that guy asked for too much money.
We talk about it because the numbers are there, but at the end, and that's because somebody had to leak that out and create content for something to talk about. But as a kid, I didn't give a crap. I didn't care about any of that stuff because you know what I saw as a kid? Number 23, right? Or whoever the number is that guy's wearing. That's all I cared about was the person that I was rooting for. That's really the heart of the fan, what you grew up watching when you were as a kid. Nobody cared about the business side when you were a kid, and you didn't care about the business side, the agent side. I know more about a player now than I really ever really wanted to.
You know why I care about the business side? I care about the business side because I'm a nerd, A. B, the business side is, and this goes from a whole another angle that we really need to pick this up. This is really a deep dive topic. Most of the revenue generating sports are through minorities. Blacks in basketball and football, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, and blacks in boxing. Plain and simple. So the power brokers that be don't want to pay the minorities the money they deserve. That's a whole nother show. But I am pro athlete and I speak the way I do because we see boxers who are freaking broke at the end of the day. I mean, if we went through a Google list of all the boxers who don't have money finances right, and of course, they get paid per fight. They make a lot of money when they get to that point. So of course they're not budgeting right. But how many times have we heard the stories of Bob Arum and Don King just juicing fighters? The fact that I even mentioned that Floyd Mayweather had to pay $700,000 to get out of his freaking contract. You know what I'm saying? So I am on that side because these guys rob our minority athletes since the beginning of the time. So when these guys say, hey, it's time for me to get paid, brother. Get paid. It may ruffle some feathers, but you know that when you're 30 and you got your brain right and you with your kids and you driving that nice whip, I remember that fight you had in 2020. That's cool. You made it out. You're good, baby. But fans, we're selfish. We want to see them do what they want to do. We want to see them win. We want to root for them. We don't want to hear them talk about money. We want to see them do their thing and get in and get out. Me, I'm like, yo, I don't care if you brash or talk or like that. Get your money. I don't care if you talk about it because the media talks about it. Get in and get out and get in with your faculties. Get out with your faculties. That's just me because if fans are not going to care about them, so they got to care about themselves. No one talks about Terry Norris. No one talks about, Bush Douglas made a lot of money, but no one talks about him and his health issues. Hitman Hearns, his health issues. So I can go down the line. They made their money, but they're not healthy.
This is the sport they've chosen.
That's true.
They've chosen.
Yeah, and they have the right to do it the way they want to, so they can get out the right way. And we complain about it when they do it their own way. Is the point I'm saying. Yeah, I know. We're not gonna agree.
We're definitely not gonna agree.
We're not gonna agree. But hey,
good shit though.
Yeah, let's. We got a few minutes here. So Ryan Garcia is the interim champ now.
Sure.
He's the mandatory to Devin Haney. I just want to state that Devin Haney was in the audience.
Yep.
And you want to talk about humble pie? He got some humble pie.
Yes, he did.
Because he was on Twitter and he says, "Yo, you my mandatory now. Fight me next." Because Devin Haney, he's angling for a fight. He same thing like Garcia. He's the champion, but he didn't beat no one. But he's angling for a fight because he can't get a fight right now. And during the time of the audience when Garcia was talking, he was like, "Hey, no disrespect to Devin Haney, but everybody want to see me fight Tank. Did everybody want to see me fight Tank?" And you heard the whole crowd go, "Tank Garcia, Tank." And then you saw the camera go back on Devin Haney. And he was like, "All right, I gotta fall back." He was like this.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. And so I'm loving this part of it because the fight, they're all going to each other's fights and they're calling each other out in person. It's not like you see on social media and you see on Twitter, "I'm calling you out." No, they're going to the fights in Texas. They're in the audience wearing their $5,000 suits or their nice outfits and like, "Yo, I want you next." Gotta love that, Jorge.
Haney's looking for a dance partner. What do you expect?
He's looking for a dance partner. Garcia looking for. He called out Tank. We didn't get a chance. Let's end off here. He called out Tank again in the ring. And then outside the ring, when they did the post-fight interview, "I want Tank Davis." Tank Davis on Twitter said, "Give me Garcia." Yeah. It's not going to happen next. But like we mentioned, we did some previous shows. DAZN was openly talking about it. Now, you know how networks, if that fighter is not signed to that network, they're not going to talk about that fighter as much. They try to limit it as much as possible unless they have to talk about it. Yeah. DAZN was like, no, they rolled that Tank Davis talk for a long time again.
Yeah.
That was dope.
I think they're basically
the hype is building up.
They build it ready.
The money's there now.
Yeah.
They now want to generate more because now that Garcia's won now, the little kids are gonna follow him even more now. They're like, "Yeah, you old people, you see what happened? Jorge, like you? Nah, all right, Garcia's our guy." So
I'm 39, man. Don't make me that old, right?
Hey, man, gotta do that to you. So Garcia's the champ now, little interim belt holder. Oscar thinks that he's going to run through Tank, and the tweet of the week was when Oscar said that that Ryan Garcia will run through Tank Davis. Tank, you can pull this tweet up, said Oscar is snorting coke again. There's no need to come back off that.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
It's a hell of a drug, baby. Oh my God. Real fast too, the DAZN commentators, you guys suck again. Yeah, they did better, but Chris Mannix.
No. What's that saying?
Yeah, come on, DAZN, do better. I
gotta seriously, guys. I have to shut you guys. I have to put you on mute when I watch a boxing show.
It's hard to find good boxing commentators. It seems like you know where they're at, and it seems like some of the outfits don't want to hire the right people. Like why is Sergio Mora still commentating? Still 6 years. And I don't want to take money out of anybody's pockets, but if you're doing a bad job, I'm gonna call you out. You're doing a bad job.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's they definitely missed some of the quality. Harold Letterman, Jim Lampley. I mean, I kind of miss those HBO guys. Those guys were really good, and even the fighters that showed up then that were always commentating on the side. You talk about George Foreman, Roy Jones. I mean, you had good commentating on the side there. Yeah. Boxers that knew how to pace themselves.
I'm be honest, George Foreman was horrible.
Foreman wasn't the worst.
You know what? Do me a favor. Go back and watch a whole bunch of old HBO fights of Foreman commentate. I thought, oh, I miss George Foreman. I watched like 20 fights. Man, I cannot listen to another George Foreman fight again. George Foreman is horrible as a boxing commentator. He was the fight that comes to mind. We might just go over time. I don't care. Floyd Mayweather was fighting Corrales. Diego Corrales.
Really? That's the one you don't like? Oh.
Well, if you watch that fight, it was a 10-round brutal beatdown. I mean, that was Floyd's probably epic fight. Like as far as like skills, you've seen the speed, the combination of power.
Wait, this was the second fight you're talking about?
No, Diego. First, there's only one fight. 5 knockdowns. Diego, remember he died in a motorcycle accident?
What was the other fighter that I was thinking about?
You're thinking of Corrales. Not Corrales, you're thinking of thing. I can't think of his name right now. He fought him twice.
Yeah.
And the first fight was a controversial decision.
Exactly.
That Floyd actually tore his rotator cuff.
Exactly. That's the one I thought he lost.
And then he had the immediate rematch, got the surgery, and then beat him down.
Yeah, Diego Corrales. Yeah. Now I remember that guy.
But Diego, I go there because of George Foreman, because the entire fight, and you watch this fight a million times, Floyd just gave him a beat down.
Sure.
I had to raise my decimal. He beat the crap out of him. I mean, that was a legacy setting fight for Floyd that put him, going forward, basically, when he, became the guy at 130. He was the guy at 130, but it was no question. But Foreman kept saying, Floyd, don't do that. You're going to get hurt by Corrales. You keep doing this. Don't do that every round. Oh, you're going to throw that lead right. You're going to get caught. And then it got to a point where Lamb was like, George, he hasn't got caught yet. So why you keep saying that? No, it got to a point that Lampley had to call George out. I was like, why you keep saying this? We're in the 8th round. It ain't happened yet. This is Floyd Mayweather. You got to be careful of Diego. It's like, George, he ain't landed 7 punches in the entire round. If you look at any fight, George has 1 point. This is boxing history here to close this out. George will give you one idea for a fight. He will ride that fight for 12 rounds, no matter how wrong it is. So I know I went off on that. I'm sorry.
So the Foreman, I think maybe that fight. Okay, maybe that's one bad example. I'll give you
more next episode.
I look because the same I can. When Trinidad fought Oscar, it was that there was a certain point up to the point where Oscar ran those rounds, and then Foreman ended up changing his commentary after that. So there's certain times where I think he can write an idea. I think he also will try to stay as even keeled as he can. I think that's maybe where he gets.
We'll have a deep dive on that one. I will bring receipts. I will have clips and then show you how bad Foreman was. Our youth, we look at Big George like, oh man, we missed George. We left HBO. Man, I've been on YouTube and I'm like, oh God, he's really bad.
So folks, that'll be a special. How bad was George Foreman at hosting? We'll get to that special.
How bad is George Foreman?
Because then we'll have the receipts to talk about. Because this is gonna be one of those. We'll do it together. We'll have some fun with it. But that's gonna be a special coming up. How bad was George Foreman? We'll do the same thing with Roy Jones if we want to get be a little bit fair as well.
Yeah, Roy, George. We should go down the line of all the commentators.
Paulie Malignaggi. Which you know what? I think he's great.
Andre Ward, Tim
Andre
Bradley.
Ward too. Yep.
But yeah, good idea.
Yeah, I think we should do that one. Yeah. That will be fun.
Yeah, let's close this out here, man. We went left. I wasn't planning on while we're closing this out here, we had a whole idea what we're going to talk about here, and we probably stuck like 40% of the script.
Yeah, we definitely improv.
So, people, as always, you can check us out, of course, on YouTube here, Boxing Now Podcast. I'll list the social media stuff here. So Facebook, Boxing Now, Twitter at Boxing Now Podcast, Instagram at also Boxing Now Podcast, the website, boxingnowonline.com, and of course, like I stated, and you can see on the screen earlier, Barnburner Zingo TV Network, channel 250. Check us out. Jorge, what you got?
Sure. Live_Dominoes on Twitch TV, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays at 8 p.m., usually till 11 o'clock. And sometimes on Saturdays, we'll run a little bit longer, give you an extra 3 hours of streaming there. So catch us there on Saturdays, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 8 p.m. start.
Yeah, so we're going to close the show out. This was another good show. We'll be back next week for more good content. There are so many things to talk about. It's kind of hard for me to break it down into a concise time here. So like I said, like and subscribe, check us out here, and we'll be back next week. Until then, people, keep fighting.
Yep. Happy New Year, folks.
Happy New Year.